So how can we actually create and embody new thought forms? Now, this question is relevant anytime we're looking to sort of create some sort of change or create something or manifest something in our lives. And what we're going to do in this video is look at what kind of the common understanding and the common approach is, how that doesn't really work out that well, and then how we can actually start to create real movement and create new forms of thought, new forms of energy in our lives. So usually the common program is, oh well, I am this but I don't like that, so I want to be that, and then maybe I'll be happy. So what happens then, people say, oh well, I'm gonna think more positive. I'm gonna set some goals, I'm gonna do some visualizations, I'm gonna do some affirmations, I'm gonna go to the seminar, I'm gonna read a book, I'm gonna do law of attraction, I'm gonna manifest. That's what happens. Oftentimes is really inadequate because it's just dealing with the mental level alone. Meaning, we're sitting there saying, oh well, I am happy. Oh, I'm happy. We're thinking these things of ourselves, trying to program ourselves for that, which is helpful and is definitely a piece of the puzzle, but is only that, just a very small piece of the puzzle. So what happens is, this is what's commonly put out in sort of sold and marketed, and people do this, get a little bit of results sometimes, but don't really, get major results. And then they get frustrated and say, oh well, I've been doing all this stuff, but I just keep attracting this, or I just am stuck in that, or I'm stuck in this, or I can't break out of that. And just really this whole thing just becomes this whole spiral. So now that's typically the common approach. And the problem with that is, number one, it's starting off on the basis of, I am broken, I don't like me, I need to fix me, I need to make me better, or I'll be happy then, or I'll be better then, and people will like me then. And that's usually the first and one of the biggest problems. Second is that it's typically only a mental thing and doesn't include the body, doesn't include the somatic, visceral, existential experience, which is the vast majority of what we are. Because if you think about it, when something is real, when something is true, oftentimes we know that, or feel we know that, because we feel it in our body. Our mind might say something, but we might have a feeling, and then we usually, hopefully, will listen to that feeling. So really, if that's the problem, well then what is a better approach? What's something that makes more sense? Well, to me, what makes more sense is to actually start to move the body in different ways, because we're talking about embodying ideas, embodying concepts, embodying energies. And if we're trying to do something different, wouldn't it make sense to look at the thing that makes the most impact and the thing that gets locked into the most patterns? So what does that mean? What am I trying to say? Well, if you were to just look at yourself, look at your life, and just look at your average day and say, well, how much range of motion am I really going through in my body throughout the course of my regular everyday routine? Meaning I have so many different muscles, so many different joints in my body. How many different ranges of motion is the body actually going through? Meaning, how much movement is the nervous system actually getting? How much comfort is actually being put into the nervous system on a regular daily basis? And for most people, it is a combination of laying down, getting up, walking, sitting down, getting up, walking, sitting down, getting up, walking. Oh, maybe I'm going to go to the gym. Okay. Up and down, up and down. Maybe some bicep curls, maybe some push-ups. Maybe I'm going to go run, which is still, pretty much not very much range of motion. And that's most people's daily routine. If you think about, okay, well, if that's what I do every day, most of the time, add that up over 20 years or 30 years or 40 years or 50 years, however long we've been stuck in those patterns, and we say, oh, well, maybe it's really no wonder that mental pattern and that mental sense of being concrete and hard and rigid and inflexible, it's really not that hard to believe, because the body really is not being very flexible either, meaning we go through these rigid sort of patterns and programs and movements all the time. And what happens when we try to move something out of that? Resistance, tension, stress, anxiety. Trying, no, that doesn't feel good. I don't want to do that. And because what happens when we try to have a more positive thought? Oftentimes, I can't do that. I can't do that. It's kind of resistance. So then, all of these different disparate ideas we're talking about comes back to the simple concept of really, if we want to create movement in our lives, we want to get from point A to point B, we're going to have to move. We're going to have to move the body differently. We're going to have to learn new ranges of motion, new postures, because different postures are going to be associated with different mental states, different functionings, and different circulations of fluids and nutrients and energy in the body. Because we are a series of tubes, whether those be meridians or nadis, or energy channels, or circulatory system, or our nervous system, or lymphatic system, whatever. All these things are tubes, which need to be moved, need to be taken through full range of motion to stimulate them. So just like in the same way, if we ate the same meal every single day for 20 years in a row, we're going to be so sick of that meal in a very short amount of time. But what happens if we move the same way every single day, all the time, for 20 years? People think, oh, that's normal. Why would you not do that? Why would you want to learn some silly, yoga, or some silly Tai Chi or Qigong or Bagua? That stuff really doesn't work. Well, it kind of does work, because it actually allows us to access different ranges of motion that we have inherently as possibilities and potentialities in our body and in our nervous system, thus allowing us to access different parts of our mind and our psyche that we have inherently within us as possibilities and potentialities. So in that sense, we can see how all of these things come together and relate, and how this one thing over here, which we started talking about the mental ideas and trying to create movement, and that can seem very daunting, but really at the end of the day, we just look at our lives and say, oh, well, maybe I can move differently. Maybe I can do different things. Maybe I can change my lifestyle. Maybe I can move my body differently, and you have to use my body more efficiently and effectively. So hopefully that makes sense. And if you have any questions or comments, post them below, and I'll talk to you soon.